Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. It is Steve Warne. I've covered the Sens since day one, 20 years with Sports Talk Radio, TSN 1200. That is Gregg Kennedy. He's been a coach for about 4 decades, as high as the junior and university levels. We appreciate you being here today. Let's get into things. Claude Giroux, minutes before we fired on the microphones, Greg, has re-signed with the Ottawa Senators. It is a $2 million a year contract, and as we kind of suspected, bonuses involved, $2.7 million more that he could earn in bonuses. What did you think of the deal?
I thought it was exactly what we expected, wasn't it? We talked about how much money do you want to pay him, and we were somewhere between 3 and 4. And then when all the talk about a bonus-laden deal came up, we said, okay, 2 to 3 plus bonuses. He's at what, 4.75? He'll max out if they get to the final or win the Stanley Cup. So I think it's exactly what we expected. The player wanted to stay. The team wanted him to stay. You knew it was only a matter of time. It's done. Wonderful. Now the only question is, where's he going to play in the lineup? And that's up to Travis Green, and that's up to Claude Giroux, and that's up to training camp. But we'll see where they are come October as to where he's going to play.
That's the catchphrase, right? Anytime anybody asks, either coaching or management, where's that guy going to play? Players will decide. Okay, that's fine. But I'm sure there are projections. And I think if you project to what the Senators' opening night lineup could be, and you looked at the top 6 forwards in Ottawa without a Claude Giroux, should he walk into UFA, that wouldn't have been good for business. And I totally agree. I don't think, now that we've seen this contract now, and the timing, it goes right to the end, like 48 hours, inside 48 hours away from his right to walk away on July 1st. That guy never, I don't think at any point, wanted to leave, and it's a struggle, right? Because in the negotiation that's going on with the Ottawa Senators, his cards were all laid on the table versus the average guy who, does he want to stay? Does he want to go somewhere else, go home? I don't know. With Giroux, basically, the Sens were in a position, I don't know if it went down this way, but the Sens certainly were in a position to call his bluff, and it looked like the Sens knew he wanted to stay, and they basically stuck to their guns.
And didn't you find it strange that the bonuses, he gets $500,000? Is it $500,000 to make the playoffs, $500,000 to win round 1, but he only gets $250,000 to win round 2, sorry. And then it's back up to $500,000 and $500,000. What is round 2? They're expected to win. We don't need to give you so much money for round 2. I found that one kind of peculiar, and it made me wonder if maybe they started at $250 per round and then jacked them up to $500. Because it just seems strange that the second round, apparently, if they win the second round, it's not worth as much money to Claude for the Senators to win the second round of the playoffs.
I break this all down at the Hockey News, Ottawa, thn.com/Ottawa. But since you've brought it up, let me give you the exact details of the bonuses. So it's $250,000 each for hitting the 20, 30, and 60 game marks, another $250,000 to make the playoffs, and 50 games played, $500,000 to win round 1. Like you mentioned, only $250,000 to win round 2, $500,000 to win round 3, and $500,000 to win the cup. That is weird. What? Yeah. We don't care about round 2 as much. We only care half as much about winning in round 2 as we did in round 1. That is odd. It's almost maybe that's I don't know, because they're getting this from Puckpedia, and these guys are furiously putting things up. So it could be a typo. I don't know, but that's what they're saying. $2 million. And that's a $4.75 million potential when all the bonuses are made. Unless you think the Sens are going to win the Stanley Cup, he's not going to win all those bonuses. But, hey, stranger things have happened, and the deal contains a no-movement clause, and that's a good thing for him. That's one thing that if the Sens, God forbid, are struggling at the deadline, they would like, ideally, to move out of Claude Giroux at that stage of the game. But the bottom line is Giroux, I think, wants to walk off into the sunset and end his career as an Ottawa Senator. Would you say that?
Oh, for sure. That clinches it right there. The whole no move clause. But it's strange, eh? All the chicken littles in Ottawa running around like the sky is falling. Claude is leaving. He's going to go to free agency. What are we going to do? Oh my God! Just relax, folks. Relax. It was only a matter of time. We all knew it was going to happen. I can't imagine that the Senators were ever going to let him walk. I can't see it. Even if he'd gone to free agency, Steve, even if he'd gone to market on the 1st of July, I'm sure it was there. Look, if something comes up, You come back to us and we'll match it. Like, right? Like it was probably there. Or maybe they wouldn't have told him they were going to match it, but I'm sure they would have matched no matter what he would have found out on the open market.
So if Tampa says, we'll give you $7 million.
Well, I don't know that Tampa was going to do that.
Well, I'm just saying as an example. I don't know what Giroux's ask was. I haven't had a chance to talk to him about it, and he probably wouldn't tell me even if I did. So I wasn't as sure as you were. I felt like almost, if the Sens were grinding him because they knew he wanted to stay, maybe an insult could have been felt there. I don't know exactly. I don't know how he wants to be in Ottawa. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But if they were saying, we'll give you $1 million and maybe a chance to make $1.5 million in bonuses, and it's like, come on, I love Ottawa. I want to be here. My family wants to be here, but come on. So I don't know what was going on behind the scenes. But one thing I did feel pretty good about in that this has been a best-in-class organization, and I felt it even more this weekend. I thought Steve Staios and his staff did a really good job on all the other things we're about to talk about. And so that was the thing that I think most gave me faith. Sure. So I was probably a little higher than 50-50, but I certainly was not certain about it, which is why I think it's great news for me. It wasn't so a fait accompli as far as I was concerned, and some of the Sens fans were concerned as well. But the other big bit of news is a brand new player, and this was a sweet piece of business. Jordan Spence of the Los Angeles Kings. We'll talk a little bit about the pick that ended up being part of this deal in a moment, because that was pretty sweet as well. But just strictly dealing with the player for now, the Sens got Jordan Spence, right-hand shot defenseman from the Los Angeles Kings, and they only had to give up the 67th overall pick and a 6th rounder. That was, I thought, terrific for a 24-year-old defenseman who probably hasn't hit his ceiling yet. What a great job of just adding further depth to a position of, I think what we can agree was of weakness entering the offseason.
Yeah, not cost him a roster player or even a prospect of a player currently in the system. That to me is a coup. The thing I like about the kid is that he's young enough, and from everything I've read, I've now studied up all on Mr. Spence over the last 48 hours. It looks like most people think he could play in a top 4 role, which is what we've said all along. It would be nice to find somebody who could play in that top 4, and then if it doesn't work out, he's kind of a caretaker in there if there's injuries to Jensen, or if the injury to Jensen prevents him to start his season. This kid can play in your top 4, but if not, my God, does he ever solidify the 5-6, right? As the third pairing D on the right side. He's far, far, far better than anybody they had playing down there this past season. So that's a bonus unto itself. He just basically got squeezed out by young Brant Clark of Ottawa here, taking away the minutes that maybe Spence would have thought that he was going to get, or even the minutes that he was getting during the regular season, and even a little bit of special team time. The kid can apparently play in a second power play unit, so it's a nice coup. I liken it to, like, people might not know his name, might not recognize him, or might not know anything about him. I liken it to the summer where the Sens grabbed Pricing and Corvo, like within a week of each other, or even when they brought in a Brian Pothier, which I think was the offseason before. These are the kind of glue guys, Nick Jensen, these are the kind of guys that you need on your team that might not be flashy names or names you've heard of, or like, oh my God, let's get this guy. No, it's this type of player that we're looking for. And you find that type of player, and who cares what his name is? Who cares what his brand recognition is? Doesn't matter if the fans know him or don't know him. We're looking for this type of player, and this guy hits on all checks all the boxes as the type of player they were looking for to fit a specific role.
He's a great insurance policy now and next year. Now, in case Nick Jensen isn't the same player after whatever procedure he's had, I think he's going to be ready in time, just based on that video his wife put out on Instagram last week, where he's out there rollerblading with one of his kids. Looked pretty strong, looked pretty smooth. So he's on his way, but you never know. He might not come back the same player, and he's not a player who's gifted with speed, so you don't want him losing a step. He may not be able to afford that. So that's insurance there. It's insurance in case Nick Matanpalo isn't quite ready to ride shotgun for an entire campaign with Tyler Kleven. I think we saw a large enough sample size that he'd be good in that role, but maybe Spence will upgrade it. And then you go ahead next year, how the insurance is there in case Nick Jensen wants to walk off into unrestricted free agency. So he's insurance for a lot of reasons. The question is, let's say everybody's healthy Is Spence coming in to rival Jensen for the number 4 job, or is he coming in to rival Matt and Paolo for the number 6 job? Is he coming in as 7? Where do you think he falls after training camp? And don't say, and by the way, don't say the players will decide.
No, hey, here's another one for you. To me, he's insurance against a further regression of Artem Zub. I see that as a possibility. I could see the guy playing with Sanderson. I could see him playing in your top number 1 right side D, like any one of those 3 spots. I think for starters, assuming everyone's healthy, that he probably starts the year in the 6th slot, or sorry, the 5 slot, I guess, the 3rd right shot D, playing with Clevin. But I can see Zub having any kind of a tail off. I can see nights happening where there's a little shuffle back there and the guy starts getting ice time. Spence, that is, starts getting ice time playing with Sanderson. And if they click, look out. Like, can you not see Spence to Sanderson the way Jensen has been to Shabbat, or the way that we expected Zub to be? And Zub didn't have a great year. He's kind of regressed 2 years in a row. So I can see this kid Spence playing way up in the lineup and even playing with Sanderson at some point in time.
Yeah, I mean, just from an injury standpoint, you talk about performance, but the injury factor, like they've had nothing but injuries at both defense and the goalie position. There weren't any career or season enders, I should say, at the defense position, but guys missed substantial time last year. And when it comes to the right side, and this is obviously an organization, we'll talk about that in the draft as they pick up yet another right shot defenseman, number 1. This is an organization that really is addressing that. You have forward trouble in terms of injury. You can work with that. Even on the left side of the defense, you can work with that. There are guys out there in the market you can get that are accessible. But the right shot defenseman is such a rarity. When you have trouble with your depth, you're going to continue to have trouble with your depth because there's just not that much talent out there that anybody's willing to surrender to help you out.
Mm-hmm. And good on them for finding a young one.
Yeah.
That's a big part of this too, not to be overlooked. This isn't some 31-year-old guy nearing the end of his career going to play the right side for us. Sorry, that could be used to describe Nick Jensen at certain points during his career here. But this is a young kid. This is a 24-year-old with lots of upside. You mentioned the skating, not exactly the greatest skater in the world, but he doesn't have to be. If he's playing with a Sanderson or a Shabbat, I don't need him to skate well. I just need him to be able to move the puck, make a good first pass, make a good decision, good clears, and he can play. So he's really just a support role on this team. Your top 2 right shot Ds are really support roles to the offensive guy on the left side.
I don't think I've seen enough of his skating to say that he can't skate well. I don't. From most of the stuff I saw was him working the second unit power play in LA. He passes well. I think his pivots and his edges are good. I just haven't seen that sort of breakaway speed. Okay, supporting my defenseman who just got burned on the other side to get back. That kind of end-to-end speed. I haven't seen that yet, but we'll see more of him as training camp gets going in September. One last thing about him, in that his point production was 4 goals and 28 points last year, and there's a neat sort of human interest angle to him in that he was born in Australia. He was born in Manly. I think it's New South Wales, I want to say. And so he's literally a Manly man. And then ended up moving to Japan, where he spent a lot of his years, and that's where he started learning hockey. And the family then at some point came back to the East Coast, I think PEI, I want to say.
Yes,
and they did so largely just to get back for his hockey career, because obviously there's not that many players coming out of Japan. He's big in Japan, but not too many NHL players coming from there. So when he tried, I believe it was his Quebec Major Junior Hockey League team that he tried to make and then didn't, he wrote a manifesto to himself about how hard he's willing to work, what he wants to accomplish. I'm going to be in the NHL someday, and I'm going to do whatever it takes. He signed it. He had his parents sign it, and his dad still has it to this day. It's a really neat Sportsnet feature. Cool. If you want to make that your internet homework that you can see on YouTube. It's pretty
dad's
cool.
Canadian, mom's Japanese.
That's
right. And actually, he could speak Japanese and English. Now just a little bit of French. I caught some of the press conference over his media avail, it was on 1200. Dean Brown asked him about that. His French isn't bad, which is, hey, that's good for Ottawa. Senators could take anybody they can who can speak and understand French. He did play in the queue, as you said, but Japanese. He also speaks Japanese and English. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, very cool. And I think he's the first Australian-born NHL player. I am so done with old school Christmas lights. The tangling, the burning out, the minus 30-degree installation dangling from a ladder. Goodbye Christmas lights. Hello Celebrate, your permanent holiday lighting solution. I've got them on my home right now. When it's daylight, they're absolutely invisible. But at nighttime, things come to life. Right now, with the beautiful weather, we're looking forward to Canada Day. And of course, the classic colors of Christmas. You can really make the lights dance, all controlled from your smartphone. And on those nights when there is no occasion or holiday, you can roll with just a beautiful, subtle white light. And the installation team from Celebrate Ottawa was fantastic. So you can keep on rolling with old school Christmas lights, or you can contact them today at celebrate.ca. Yay! Now let's get to some of the trades, because there were 3 of them on the weekend. Steve Staios did a great job with them all. Obviously, we've talked about the Spence deal. Again, a 67th overall pick and a 6th rounder next year. Not too shabby. Or it might be 27. I have to double check that. Then, but the big deal that allowed them to have that 67th pick was pretty damned impressive. So the Sens go in with a 21st overall selection, and shortly before that, they make a deal with the Nashville Predators. The Sens deal 21 to Nashville for 23 and 67. Like, that's fantastic, especially when you don't have a second-round draft pick.
Yeah, perfect. And that's Steve Staios fully admitted it. He said, before the draft, if you'd asked me if I was going to make this trade for Spence, I would have said no. They didn't have the assets required. LA was looking for a third and something else, and ended up being a third and a 6th. But they didn't really have a third they wanted to give away until they made the deal with Nashville. They saw somebody they liked in the first round and said, you know what, he's still going to be there in 2 or 3 picks. Let's see if we can't flip down a little bit. Made the deal with Nashville. That gives them the 3rd rounder. Couple the 3rd rounder with the 6th, and boom, Bob's your uncle. You got Spence to play defense. Really crafty, sneaky little dealing there by Steve Staios.
Yeah, my guess is that Nashville had Cameron Reed as one of like 2 or 3 guys that they'd like at their pick at 23. But at that stage, the other 2 guys were gone, and Reed was the only guy left. And so maybe they wanted to make sure that they got him. They didn't want Ottawa or whoever picked at 22 to scoop him up. And maybe from the Sens' perspective, maybe it was a case of, okay, 21's coming here. We still have 3 guys on our board that we love equally, Hensler being among them. So let's go ahead and do something like this. So really wise. I'm always interested to see how those things come together, like who approached who exactly. And why would Nashville be that worried about not getting their hands on Cameron Reed exactly? I mean, nice player, but like I say, there seemed to be comparable players at that stage of the draft. The art of the deal is always a very interesting one to me, but good for Steve Staios for getting that done.
But it comes down to your list too, right? Like, I've always been amazed how do you differentiate? Like, when you're making a list, how do you determine who's number 64 versus who's number 65? Like, really, is there that much of a difference? But I get it when you're talking about high up in the draft and Nashville waiting around at 23, and they've got, like the guy that they have ranked 4th or 6th or something is still there. My God, we thought this guy was the 6th best player, and he's still there. There's no way he's going to survive until we get to 23. Okay, let's make this deal. I think that's where it comes from more than anything. It's not that they had 2 or 3 guys that they liked and who's going to be available. I think they really had Cameron Reed of the Kitchener Rangers, I believe, ranked really, really high and really, really wanted him, and were fearful they weren't going to get him at all. So that's why they made the deal. I'm guessing that's why Barry Trotz did what he did.
Yeah, and I'm sure a lot of these conversations are happening before the draft. Hey, if this is your situation, this might be ours. We're interested in the concept of moving down, and it all worked out great. And then that 67th became Jordan Spence, and just a terrific bit of business for sure. With basically, you acquire an NHL defenseman for a pick that you basically gave up nothing for. Like, just so good. Then later, it was the opposite effect. They end up with the 96th and 96th overall pick. They basically wanted to jump to 93. They also gave up a 7th rounder. Who cares? Because they really wanted Thomas Vanek's son, Blake Vanek, but we'll get to him in a moment. And the other one, of course, was the original Spence deal. So those are the three trades. But let's just quickly go through the guys that they ended up picking up. They end up with 6 pretty interesting prospects, 6 draft picks, including the aforementioned Logan Hensler, who played at the University of Wisconsin. But even more impressive than that, he was a part of that Team USA gold medal winner this past season, and looks like the greatest kid in the world. To see when he was drafted at, and again, it was 23rd overall, all his buddies and teammates from Wisconsin were at a sports bar, and when his name got called by comedian Tom Green, the place went absolutely crazy. You can see he's a well-loved teammate, and that's a nice sign too.
Yeah, you have to understand that all of these players have got supporting family, friends, teammates, like the people that have helped along the way, from small roles to big roles that get you to the place you're going to get to. Yeah, that's a pretty cool video. I think you posted it, didn't you? I saw it somewhere. It was a link that you put up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. And he's a right shot D. Will bring a little bit of offense, can play the game. But, you want to sit here and talk about him, and you read all the scouting reports. It's 2 or 3 years away, people. Like, there's a lot can change between what he is today and what he is in 2 or 3 years. So to say anything other than he's a right shot D with size who projects to be a 3-4 defenseman in the NHL someday, that's about what he is at this point in time. And we'll see what he ends up being in 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, it's funny, like, there's not many guys that come along in at the defense position, because it's such a difficult position to assess, where you immediately go, bona fide number one. Nobody ever really talks in those terms. It's always like, oh yeah, might sneak as a number 2 or some middle of the road. Nobody's really sure. But as far as prospects go, all of the signs are in place. Like, gold medal winner with Team USA, playing meaningful minutes in that tournament against the best players in the world, your peers. That's always a good sign. And so, yeah, everything you want in a prospect is right there, and a right shot D. The rarity of it, like we talked about earlier, that's all good stuff. Blake Vanek, we mentioned him as well. That kid has got a permagrin as well. Also looks like one of those Pierre Dorion high character guys, but he did look like, he was just absolutely thrilled to be drafted. He ended up going, was it 93 because of the deal?
Oh, that's right. They moved up to 93, right?
That's right. So he is at 93, so that's a late third rounder. And he looks, he spent most of the year in high school. So like Javon Moore, just absolutely ripped up Minnesota high school hockey. Javon Moore, the 4th rounder from last year. So he played and did great, went to the state championship, I think it was, and then ended up going to the Chicago Steel in the USHL. And apparently, from all reports, did not look at a place, and he's going to play in the Western Hockey League next year with, is it Wachini Wild?
Yes.
I'm always
out in the Dub.
Yeah, I'm always messing up that city name, but he's heading out there, and bloodlines. This just in, the Sens picked up a former NHL player's son. The beat goes on, but it's never a bad thing, and from everything I've seen in the video, good size, really good shot. But unfortunately, how do you judge anything when you're out there dominating high schoolers?
High school, yeah. He played, I think it was 9 games in the USHL, something like 5 points.
Yep.
That's impressive.
Yep.
But again, who knows, right? You got a long way to go. He sort of sarcastically said, but I think he was serious, that his shot's better than Dad's, and Dad could shoot the puck. So that's a good sign, I guess. Whether he can skate and get to those places and fight his way through and get to places to be able to release that shot, that's a whole other story. It remains to be seen. Another guy who's going to be 2-3 years away. We'll see how he does this coming season and what kind of numbers he puts up and what kind of development there is in his game. But again, as of today, looks real good. It's the day after the draft. Everybody looks good. We're happy with all our picks. They're all going to project. They're all going to play. It's a bit of time. Let's show some patience.
I'm getting a sense from your tone that you don't want to talk about the rest of the draft field here.
Well,
a
couple goalies. The kid out of Baie-Comeau looks good. I'm happy with that, with the goalie pick there, and the second goalie later on. I mean, once you get down to the 6th, 7th round, who knows? But the kid from Baie-Comeau looked pretty good, and again, somebody can speak French. That would look good here in Ottawa someday. So he's the one I'm more interested in seeing, because goaltenders, you could say a goaltender takes 7 years to get here, but there's a clear progression for goaltenders, right? Like I'm a backup in major junior. I'm a number 1 in major junior. I'm a number 1 in major junior again. Do I get any world junior time? Am I doing any consideration for a U18 team, for a U20 team? Then what happens when I turn pro? I play in the East Coast League. I play in the American League as a backup. I think this kid projects to be a 1B, is what they're saying right now. That's basically a platoon guy. A 1B guy is somebody who's going to play 30 to 35 games in the NHL, and that sounds like a nice spot for me. I would be interested in seeing that, assuming that Levi Marilainen continues to progress, and a few years down the road, Marilainen or somebody else is number 1, and boom, you've got a ready-made backup ready to go.
All right, so let's get some names in here. So you're talking about Baie-Comeau's Lucas Beckman, and the thing I do like about him is that, like Blake Vanek, and this is another catchphrase that's come up, he's got lots of runway left, because in both cases, both these kids are 17 years old. They don't turn 18 till August. And in the case of Beckman, how do you not like a 17-year-old goalie who starts over 50 games, starts all of his team's playoff games, and puts up sterling numbers? That's a really good sign. Like 17-year-olds, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think there's that many 17-year-olds who are getting like the bulk of all the work, like an undisputed number 1 with their major junior Canadian hockey club. I think that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it is. His stats are very impressive, and that's what I'm saying. I look forward to seeing the progression. Hopefully, there's no regression. He can only get better next year in the queue, and who knows where he goes from there. But coming into this draft, definitely on the radar. Like I sat down and looked through the goaltenders, and I think even one point I mentioned to you, maybe the first round pick is a goaltender, because there were goaltenders out there in the Sens. It's probably an area of need. I think we can all agree on that. An area of need, not just now, but down the road. There's not a lot in the cupboard. So I was looking forward to seeing which goaltender they would get, and this one looked like the good one, and I'm happy with it. Yeah, I think it looks great.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird, though, that they have 6 picks and like 33% of their draft class are goalies. It's a little different, but they like the player, obviously. Yeah, Dmitry Isayev is an interesting one in that if anybody wanted to accuse the Senators of only drafting big players, this would be the guy they can point to and say, this kid is highly skilled, lots of speed, and he's 5'8", 148 pounds. So that's not necessarily NHL timber, but there have been very small guys, and the Montreal Canadiens tend to employ all of them, it seems. But lots of skill there. Interesting player. Then you had, Bruno Egan. It's actually pronounced Idzan, but comes out Egan. I think he's the first Croatian ever to be drafted in the NHL. And he's a really, like, his background's crazy. Like, not crazy, but so different for an NHL draft pick. He started this past season playing in the Alps Hockey League, which is like a pro league that has Austria and Croatia, some other teams as well. And then he ended up going over to the USHL to play with Lincoln, which is where Blake Montgomery started this past season. And both of those two players will be at Wisconsin with 2 other Sens picks in Logan Hensler and Tyson Dyck, or Dick, I'm not sure which, D-Y-C-K. But they're all Sens draft picks, so it's the new North Dakota, Greg, or Wisconsins. Wisconsins. Anyway, so he's an interesting prospect and big stats, had really big stats with the USHL club in Lincoln, and Andrei Trofanov is the other goalie that we talk about. So there is your draft class of 2025. Now, to close it out, as we begin to land the plane, the draft broadcast and presentation and format, whatever you want to say, it was very different this year because presumably to save money, anytime you want to, well, why are they doing that? 99 times out of 100, it's the money, follow the money. So they're obviously trying to save money. And so all the NHL executives and their scouts stay back in their host cities. They only invite the first 50 in NHL Central Scouting as far as players go. And then they decide to do all this video conferencing with a special guest coming in announce the first round pick. And the Friday night broadcast and the presentation was just, I don't want to be, just raining on something because it's new or an attempt at innovation. I'm fine with trying new things, but it just did not work. It was just awful, I thought, on Friday night. What'd you think?
Horrible. Absolutely horrible. And exactly as I predicted, Steve. Like, seriously, did you think it was going to be good? Did you think it was going to be kind of cool? I certainly didn't. I could tell right off the bat, this is not going to be good. Like Gary doing most of the hosting, going into that little, what they call it, the players' lounge or whatever the heck they called the little square box. They go in and look at TV screens and talk to their teams. At least 3 of them, including Ottawa's, the connection didn't work. Like, I just thought it was terrible. The poor kid, the Long Island kid that Boston took, oh, okay, wave to them then. The woman there telling the guy to wave, whoever the girl was doing the coverage or the on the spot interviews. Like Don Sweeney couldn't speak to the kid. Steve Staios couldn't speak to the Hensler. It just, and the celebrity making the pick thing. I got to admit, like half of them, I didn't know who the heck they were. So they can't, well, maybe they still could be considered a celebrity, but I'm just a stupid old man that don't know who they are. But half of them, I had no idea who they were. And I'm sorry, I was disappointed by Tom Green, thoroughly disappointed with Tom Green. Like, that's the best we could come up with here in Ottawa. What, why not Brooke Henderson? Or why didn't you get Giroux signed a day earlier and have Claude come on and say, hey, I'm pleased to announce that I've re-signed with the Sens. And by the way, our first round pick is boom, boom, boom. Like, why couldn't they have Claude Giroux do it or somebody other than Tom Green? Anyway, I didn't like the show. I thought it was terrible.
Okay. Yeah, that was, tell us how you really feel there. Certainly, I handicapped the field as the top 5 I thought it would be. I thought Claude Giroux, that was my number 1. I thought, just like you just said, that be a great time. I feel like he wants to stay. I feel like it's going to happen. If it's going to happen, there's only 3 or 4 more days anyway, but it obviously didn't pan out. These things happen. I didn't have Tom Green on my list, but I was appreciative. I was appreciative that he didn't try and do anything other than just had his dog and did his thing and announced the pick. It was fine. I just, by that stage in the draft, Greg, I was so put off by all these special guests and their unbelievable lack of preparation or game plan to do something interesting, and the special guest factor. It didn't take down the draft unto itself. It was just so unnecessary. It was just wasting time. I'd rather have heard the panel talk for 60 more seconds to break down what might or might not happen or what's happened to that stage, rather than go throw it over here to see these, like you said, they're not that, a lot of them aren't that famous. Like a lot of the owners and GMs are more famous than these guys that they were bringing up. So why not just let the GMs do it back in their home cities? No, I think that's got to go. And as you mentioned, like the video conference calls and the virtual hockey house, it was such a wild piece of optimism for the NHL to think that a nervous, excited 18-year-old kid and a stodgy NHL executive could turn into suddenly hosts and broadcasters and carry what would be like 60% of the broadcast evening. Like, that was such a wild fit of optimism, I thought. And then if you're going to do that, like, and you're not like, at least have like a safety net there. The young woman who was hosting it, I thought she was poised. I think in the right circumstances, she could be a very good broadcaster, but you need someone in there who's really experienced at facilitating conversation. And that didn't help anything either. Like, she's going over to the Goo Goo Dolls to find out what they think of Buffalo's first pick. Like, it was a mess. And technically speaking, which part did you like least? You mentioned it, the audio crapping out for the NHL executives where they couldn't hear anything? Or was it the fact that when you're actually seeing the thing, the kid who's just been drafted is completely blocking the screen of the NHL executives? Like, the camera angles were like, it was crazy. Like, it was just uniquely bad. And then the last thing I'll say, and then we'll put this to rest and call it a show, was you've got this nice podium to the left of the stage with a microphone right there. You saw it when a couple of times it was a trade to announce. They had the big red panic button and blah, we have a trade to announce. I thought that was fine. It didn't make or break anything. But instead of using that microphone to bring on the special guest, Gary plods goes on his little expedition for about, I don't know, was that about 80 yards of walking to get to the middle stage, Mike, just so he could bring on the special guest. Like, why do we have to watch him make that walk every single time?
Every time.
Oh, anyway. And don't even get me started on the double pictures.
Oh, geez, no, don't.
I can't help. I can't help it. I gotta
Go.
Gary poses with the player and the special guest that brought on that player, and then once that picture's done, Gary shoos the special guest away.
Yeah.
Which in most
time now.
Yeah, which in most cases is fine, but when you're doing it to Meredith Gaudreau, Johnny Gaudreau's widow. Now it's time for our picture. Can you just get another shot for us? Oh my God, I was like, oh. Anyway, long story short, it did not go well on Friday night, and we need to never speak of this again, let alone ever do it again.
But there was two cool things at the end of the second day. Did you watch any of the second day?
No.
Okay, I did with my PVR. So I'm fast forwarding a lot. The second last pick, or the third last pick, belonged to LA. And there was some guy there in a Kings jersey and shorts sitting in like the fourth row by now. And what's his name? Vice President John Daly. What's his name? Bill Daly brings the guy up on stage to make the selection for LA. I thought that was pretty cool. The guy gets up on stage. He goes, "Can I get a Let's Go Kings?" The guy was a natural, Steve. He was phenomenal. Oh. And he reads out LA's picks. That was pretty cool. And then the second last, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, just random Kings guy?
Yeah, random Kings fan. He'd been there all show. He'd been there the whole day and the whole first night. He was a fan who paid to get in and watch the show, and he was still there. I guess there was hardly anybody there by the end of the second day, right? And then the second last pick, Steve, was in the building. He was in the house in a hoodie and a pair of shorts. Some kid. Wow. He was in the building because he's buddies with damn, I can't remember now. He's buddies with a teammate with a guy who went in the first round. So the guy, he was going to go to the draft the second day with his buddy, and his buddy ended up getting on a plane. It was Nashville's pick. So maybe, no, it wasn't Cameron Reed. It was, anyway, the guy ended up being flown out in a private jet to whoever drafted him. So the guy still had these tickets. So he went with another buddy and his dad and went there with all these buds to watch he was just there as a fan to watch it. And he's the second last pick. And the place went nuts. This group of people, they're all cheering for this guy. Second last pick. He goes up on stage to get his jersey and his ball cap, and he's wearing a hoodie and a pair of shorts. That was pretty cool.
That's funny. I mean, and it just speaks to the weirdness of the weekend, right? You say, hey, we should go to the NHL draft. Yeah. And, you never know. We might get a chance to go on stage, just random fan, or I might actually get drafted. You just never know. Never know what might happen. With that, we'll call it a day. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks so much for being with us today. SensNationHockey.com is our website. Please check out the hockey news, THN.com/Ottawa for all your great Senators coverage all season long. We don't shut down. We do have the free agent frenzy coming, though, so that will be our next episode, breaking down what the Sens did or didn't do and what's happening around the NHL. So that will probably occur maybe Tuesday night, Wednesday. We're not sure exactly. We'll see how it goes. But we look forward to talking at you then. Greg, enjoy your evening, and we'll talk to you next time.
Thanks, Steve. See you.